Now, as South Africa has been gripped by weeks of load shedding, the country's energy crisis has worsened at an alarming rate. All areas of life have been affected. Now there are fears that ahead of the summer crop planting season, agriculture will take a hard hit. Experts believe that if the current state of energy supply continues at the level that it is, will have significant implications for local food production and food security. Well, to tell us a little bit more about the plight of farmers under the current energy crisis, I'm now joined by Dr Brylyne Chitsunge, who's a commercial farmer and also the Pan-African Parliament's ambassador for food and security in Africa. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Peter, for having me on the program tonight under the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, you're a commercial farmer yourself, so you're feeling a lot of this firsthand. Let's start with the bigger question. Are you concerned about food security because of load shedding?
Well, I've always been concerned about it, but more so importantly now because it's affecting everyone across the board. And I'll just give you a few examples. A farmer relies on irrigation systems to scale up on food production, but now without energy, you cannot do much really. You need to power your storage facilities, like your silos, you need to power those. The dairy industry, they rely so much on energy. And unfortunately, with what is going on now, it's not sustainable. I'm a commercial farmer in the country, and daily now on one part of the facility, I'm spending at least 5,600 rands on diesel to power generators. And I don't know how long I'm going to last for. And like, for example, I've had to leave the farm now to come out to get where there's power because the power has gone out for the next 3 hours. So it will only be back at 10. So it's really something that is impacting on everybody. And I cannot even talk about the price increase of diesel last night, 10 cents for diesel. And we are approaching the planting season. I've been getting a lot of calls from commercial farmers, smallholder farmers, and the story is the same. But unfortunately, it looks like we're heading for a breakdown, the whole entire country at large. I mean, logistic companies as well are complaining. The laborers to get them to the farm, it's very expensive.
The smallholder farmers, let's talk about them a little bit, because they say that the bigger commercial farms perhaps have a little bit more cushion to ride some of the challenges. But the smallholder farmers, the margins are so small that a difficult season can be disastrous. Well,
Peter, to be honest with you, the smallholder farmer contributes 2% of the food production in the country. So the commercial farmer right now is of great importance. I don't want to sit here and lie to you. So the minute we lose those big farmers, then we are finished. The smallholder farmers, at least they've been managing with somehow not having some electricity. Remember, some of their smallholder facilities, there's no power at all, and they've been managing and coping. But now, with the commercial farmer, I mean, I've visited a few farms now, dairy farms that are now closing down. We've got feedlot farms that are closing down because then they cannot produce silage because they need electricity to power their facilities. And the biggest challenge now is what is the way forward? And I think policy is not favoring the farmer at all. For example, if we can get solar energy, let's use renewable energies like solar, but I'm sure every farmer can afford 2-3 hectares to put a solar facility. I've just had a quote for my farm, and that's 2.3 million. Wow. And just a smallholder farmer needs 80,000. Where are people going to get all that money from? So it's not helping. So I think it's time that government steps in and provides some sort of subsidies. And if you look at areas like Mpumalanga, they've got lots of biomass, so they can resort to bioenergy and biodigesters and to produce energy. But the grid is not reliable either. So how do we even jump onto the grid? And also how it's not being made easy either. Policy doesn't favor that to get on the grid. So my suggestion would be if we can get a lot of these farms to produce solar and then get on the grid, they produce for themselves, and then the rest they can pass it on to the grid, and that will actually help immensely.
So your message to government is they have to find the money to help, particularly the commercial farmers. And I suppose if they say that they don't have money, the truth is that they can't afford not to have money because the consequences will be too severe.
Very severe. I mean, I remember I was in your program talking about COVID and COVID being partnering with our number one enemy, which has always been poverty. So now with what is happening with the load shedding, it is unsustainable. I mean, I'm getting farmers, as I said earlier, every day calling about it. And even logistic companies also, they also under a lot of pressure. And if you look at the markets as well, they need a lot of energy to power their facilities. So a lot of produce is being put to waste outside the markets because they haven't got the cold facilities. And also, if you look at, I was talking to someone from the South African weather forecast, they've got backup of batteries, but when those batteries run out, then they don't actually have systems to actually be able to tell us how the weather is, the weather forecast is. And as you know, we've got climate change here as well. So I don't even know what to say right now because then it's a big challenge. And I am urging to the president in particular, he's a farmer himself. So if he can actually step in with his government to see what they can do to give subsidies to the farmers so that we can carry on farming. Because otherwise, if we don't do that, we're headed for a doomsday. And it's not going to help any of us at all. If you look at the prices of beef, for example, you look at the prices, it's unaffordable. There was an auction 2 weeks ago that I attended for cattle, a cost of 120,000. That's like 30,000 a head of cattle. So if you think about it, there is no other alternative protein other than your fish, your rabbit, and so forth, which is not being farmed as well. So then also the message to the farmers is let's look at alternative ways of how we can actually sustain this whole, it's a dilemma. We are actually faced by a huge challenge now as a nation. And as I said, as the Food Security Ambassador, my message to the government, I cannot emphasize enough to ask to say, can we please get the support and the help that the farmers need? But equally important, I think also to the farmers as well, I'll call upon them as well to say, let's build resilience. That will help because then other countries are doing it, so we could also do it. Yes, we know other countries have suffered a lot of it, but I think maybe we've not been exposed to it that much, and that's why we're beginning to feel it more now. But it's a huge challenge. And water issues, South Africa is amongst the top 30 countries in the world that have got scarcity of water. So that's also another challenge. So
it seems
it's a ripple effect. I think it's something that...
Perhaps a final question. As the ambassador for the Pan-African Parliament, food security, you've traveled across the continent. South Africa is not the only country on the continent with energy challenges. What are the other countries doing that perhaps we can learn from them that somehow they manage to keep agriculture going?
As I said earlier, that building resilience, that would help. And I also want at this point in time to call upon the farmers, the bigger farmers, the smaller farmers. Let's all join hands and let's see how we can also help the government to help us, to help the farmers. So it's a win-win situation for the government and also for the farmers, but more importantly for the consumers. So it's actually putting a lot of pressure on the consumers. And also what I can say to you now, with the challenges that we've got right now, security issues on the farms, we're getting a lot of high levels of livestock theft because then the security system is not working. So that's also a big challenge. But taking a leaf from other countries, I think we can build a bit of resilience and see how we can actually move forward. But to be honest with you, it's something that I've been discussing with the farmers, and you can actually see the number of farms that are up for sale now. I mean, every day I'm getting messages, they're putting their farms up for sale and they're saying, look, they cannot afford to do it. And sometimes with the security risk as well, the power goes out, someone goes into the field, take all the irrigation equipment, the steel to go and sell it. And then you wake up in the morning, you can't even run your system, or you find your converters are gone, you find your electric cables are gone. So it is really a big challenge. So I also call on the Justice Ministry that they should avail more security as well, especially during the load shedding time to the farmlands, so that it can actually just help to secure the little that they've got left now to help with the country.
Dr Chitsunge, thank you so much indeed for joining us, and let's hope that the powers that be, as well as commercial farmers, come together and find a solution. But thank you so much indeed for highlighting these issues for us.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you once again for having me on the session, and take care of yourselves, please.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, that's Dr Brylyne Chitsunge, who's a commercial farmer and Pan-African Parliament's Ambassador for Food and Security in Africa, painting a very bleak picture that if we carry on at this rate in terms of load shedding, the agriculture sector is going to take a massive hit, and food security, amongst other issues, can become quite a challenge.